When it comes to weight loss, no two people are the same. That's why Noom builds personalized plans based on your unique psychology and biology. Take Brittany. After years of unsustainable diets, Noom helped her lose 20 pounds and keep it off.
I was definitely in a yo-yo cycle for years of just losing weight, gaining weight, and it was exhausting.
And Stephanie. She's a former D1 athlete who knew she couldn't out-train her diet, and she lost 38 pounds.
My relationship to food before Noom was never consistent.
And Evan, he can't stand salads, but he still lost 50 pounds with Noom.
I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. Even through the pickiness, Noom taught me that building better habits builds a healthier lifestyle. I'm not doing this to get to a number. I'm doing this to feel better.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom users compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Ciara Revin, and this is the Sunday 7.
On this week's edition of the award-winning Sunday 7, we catch up on Spain's flooding catastrophe and dig into the climate changes that caused it. We hear from Will Guyatt about Russia's amazing find for Google. We track down a 400-year-old vampire and discover how AI is getting its nose into plums. Remember, if you're enjoying this episode, please do like and follow us. We're here 7 days a week at 7 a.m. with the Smart 7, the 7 biggest stories every morning. But first, it was on this day in 1957 that Russia launched Sputnik 2. It was historic because its cargo included the first live animal ever sent into space, Siberian Husky Laika. Sadly, the dog never made it home, but scientists gathered critical data that helped to make manned missions possible. And Laika was followed by Russia's Yuri Gagarin in 1961, who became the first human to pilot a spacecraft. This week has seen devastating flooding in the Valencia region of Spain, with almost 200 dead as rescuers continued to work on recovering bodies. The flooding was the deadliest in Spain's history, and it inflicted massive damage on infrastructure, with bridges swept away, cars left piled up in streets, and farmland flooded. The heavy rain took authorities by surprise, with complaints from residents that text alerts weren't sent in time, with the flooding already underway by the time evacuation warnings were sent. Rain meters in Xiva in Valencia, which was at the centre of the flooding, detected over 400 litres per square metre in just over 8 hours. That's over a year's worth of rain. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez announced a 3-day national mourning period and says that the government will offer every support.
Spain weeps with all of you. Our absolute priority is to help you. Our public authorities are working in a coordinated fashion to make that possible, and we are going to do everything possible today and however long is necessary so that we can recover from this tragedy. We will not leave you alone.
Meteorologists say the intense rain was caused in part by a natural phenomenon known as the cold drop, or the gota fria, which occurs when cold air moves across the Mediterranean, causing warm air to rise rapidly, which then causes heavy rain and thunderstorms. The issue is that climate change has warmed the Mediterranean and made the phenomenon much more severe. Seth Borentsein from the Associated Press said more extreme weather events are part of a global pattern which is affecting the jet stream.
One of the latest theories with climate change is that the jet stream at times gets wavier and stuck more often because of climate change, specifically because the Arctic is warming faster than other parts of the world. The air holds more moisture when it's warmer. As a matter of fact, for every degree Celsius, it's 7% more moisture. It has warmed 1.3 degrees Celsius more than it was in pre-industrial times. That's 9% more rain in the air.
Oksana Tarasova is a senior scientific officer at the UN's World Meteorological Organization, and she says the atmospheric CO2 is being measured at record levels as fossil fuel emissions remain in the atmosphere.
Actually, we have not seen these levels of CO2 in the history of humanity. The problem with CO2 is that it is a very long-lived greenhouse gas. So it stays in the atmosphere for thousands of years. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who has been calling for swifter action from developed countries, but now a report is warning that not only are we at risk of missing the 1.5 degree global warming target, in fact temperatures could end up at more than double that figure by the end of this century.
We are teetering on a planetary tightrope. The emissions gap is not an abstract notion. There is a direct link between increasing emissions and increasingly frequent and intense climate disasters.
It's time to catch up on the biggest tech stories of the week. And when it comes to big tech or really big numbers, there's only one man we trust with the company calculator, and that's the Smart 7's tech guru, Will Guyatt. So, Will, it's slightly unusual that Vladimir Putin makes an appearance in this week's Tech Roundup, but he's not happy with Google, is he?
Not at all. This centres all around the restriction of content on YouTube. Google shut channels of 17 Russian media outlets in 2020, and the relationship between the company and Putin via the country's media regulator Roskomnadzor has worsened ever since. Russia first fined Google 21 billion rubles in July 2022, saying it had not restricted access to what it called prohibitive content about the war in Ukraine. And this is the next step in this attempt to get Google to pay up.
So Russia has decided that the banning of these YouTube accounts requires a fine. How much is it?
So it's 2 undecillion rubles, and if you, like me, haven't ever heard of an undecillion, it's a really, really large number. In fact, to tell you how large it is, I'm going to read it out and probably pass out from exhaustion halfway through. So, an undecillion starts with a 2, and then it's followed by 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And for those wondering if I'd crashed, that was a 2 followed by 36 zeros. Google is currently worth $2 trillion, and that couldn't even touch the sides of that proposed fine.
Isn't that more than all the money on earth, unless you've got some Bitcoin stashed somewhere?
It's actually more money than has ever been created on Earth. In fact, the IMF says that combined, the global GDP of the world is only $110 trillion a year. So whether this fine is from the bottom of the judge's vodka bottle or because the country has lost its patience with Google still remains to be seen.
What is Google's take on the issue?
So far, Google haven't even acknowledged the fine. It's hard to know whether they're ignoring it in the hope it goes away, or maybe they're turning all the sofas upside down to find some extra cash.
Otherwise, though, it's been a good week for big tech overall. AI seems to be driving profits for Google, Microsoft, and even Reddit. How are they using it?
Reddit recorded its first profitable quarter as a publicly traded company last week, and like most tech companies, these profitable quarters have been few and far between, with just 3 over the last 14 quarters. Now, intriguingly, the profit has come from licensing the wealth of content found on Reddit to train AI models from companies like Google and OpenAI, the folks behind ChatGPT. This license was one of the first negotiated because previously most AI companies hoovered up vast amounts of web data under what they determined was fair use. Instead, Reddit sat down early with all the AI companies and came up with a licensing structure for its valuable content. Reddit's also seen advertising on the platform increase too, so we may be closer to the company finally becoming consistently profitable.
And what's the story with Netflix's new feature Moments? It sounds like a cool way to share your favourite content, but it's not that simple, is it?
This sounds like it's all about the power of social media. Netflix wants fans to share moments from their exclusive shows and films. The idea is you bookmark a scene or a moment, and then you can post it to Insta, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Now, while this sounds really cool, you'd think the share option would enable you to post stuff onto social media for pals to watch, and that might encourage them to sign up to Netflix if they don't have a subscription. But that's just not the case at all. You need to be a Netflix subscriber to watch these shares on social media, and this takes a huge chunk of the fun out of this Moments feature right now. Moments is currently only available on Apple devices, but it will come to the Android app soon.
Still to come, the Sunday 7 breakthroughs in the treatment of brain cancer, and a 400-year-old vampire is revived. This week saw a remarkable development in the treatment of one of the deadliest forms of brain cancer. Recurrent glioblastoma manifests as aggressive brain tumours which typically kill most patients within 18 months. But now a new trial treatment has shown promising results in just 6 weeks. The treatment involves initial surgery to remove as much of the tumour as is possible. And then a small medical device called an Omea reservoir is implanted under the scalp, which releases material directly to the tumour while leaving healthy cells unaffected. The team at the University College London's NHS Trust have been running clinical trials aimed at one day being able to fully cure patients. Dr. Paul Mulholland is the lead oncologist on the team, and he explains how the groundbreaking trial worked.
This trial is a first-in-humans trial. It's the first time that this has been given to a human, this drug. And we knew when we were designing the trial that the drug wouldn't get across into the brain because there's a barrier to block drugs and viruses and other things to getting into your brain to protect us. So we're working very closely with the surgeons at Queen's Square, and Miss Sethi operated on Paul. She inserted a tube directly into the tumour, goes through the skull, and there's a little port on the outside of the skull. Then that's enclosed under the skin so no infection can get in. And 10 days after the operation, we were able to inject the first injections for the drug. So Paul's had 6 injections over 6 weeks, and we were extremely pleased to see that he got a 50% reduction in the tumour.
This week saw another brain cancer breakthrough too, as doctors in Canada secured approval for a new oral treatment for cancer, which will slow the growth of brain tumours. Dr. Mary Jane Limphat is a neuro-oncologist at the Sunnybrook Health Sciences Centre in Toronto, and she explains why taking a pill can make a dramatic difference to patients with brain tumours.
Our best treatments, which up until now have consisted of radiation and chemotherapy, only delays the time until which the tumor grows back. The time until which the tumor grew was more than double the time that what was seen in the group that did not receive the drug.
If you stumbled across a grave which contained the bones of a woman considered to be a vampire, what would you do? I think, like most people, I'd probably run a mile. But a team of academics in Poland have been busy reconstructing a 400-year-old vampire called Zosia. They're using 3D printing and modelling clay to recreate her features and learn more about the woman who was found in an unmarked grave in Pień in North Poland. Oskar Nilsson is an archaeologist at the Copernicus University in Torun in Poland, and he explains how the project came about.
She was found in a grave 2022 with a sickle placed over her throat, and at her left big toe there was a padlock placed. This is interpreted as signs of the people that buried her thought she was a vampire. I think it's really ironic in a way that these people burying her, they made everything they could in order to prevent her from coming back from the dead. And I and the team of Pień, we have made everything we can in order to make her come back to life. I got the idea or the mental set that I would try to make her as a human and not as this monster that she's buried as.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, AI gets its nose into fragrances, and we go ghost hunting with a professor of animalistic psychology.
Right after this.
Explaining football to the friend who's just there for the nachos? Hard. Tailgating from home like a pro with snacks and drinks everyone will love? An easy win. And with Instacart helping deliver the snack time MVPs to your door, you're ready for the game in as fast as 30 minutes. So you never miss a play or lose your seat on the couch or have to go head-to-head for the last chicken wing. Shop game day faves on Instacart and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 grocery orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Other fees and terms apply.
Welcome back.
We're getting increasingly used to how AI is impacting on our lives, but so far it's largely been driven by the written word, visual or audio. But now an AI company is working hard to bring artificial intelligence techniques to our sense of smell. Osmo Labs describes themselves as a digital olfaction company, and they've been working hard on developing what they call scent molecules to allow for rapid creation of new scents and ultimately creating new, longer-lasting fragrances or scents that can simulate different environments. Christoph Laudemiel is Osmo's master perfumer, and he says that their use of AI means they can screen billions of molecules at a rate that would be impossible for humans. CEO of Osmo Labs is Alex Wiltschko, and he walks us through how they managed to capture in digital form the scent of a plum.
We used AI to digitize and rematerialize the essence of a plum. What we've done is we've cut a plum here, and we're going to put it into a vial where the scent that's leaving the plum is being trapped inside of this vial. And then what we can do is take this vial to a machine which can suck the air outside of this vial, which contains the smell of the plum, and then analyze those molecules one by one. And when we have that, we can then take that formula and then reprint it. If we've done the whole process correctly, the thing that ends up reprinted, which is just going to look like a clear liquid, is the distilled essence of the scent of a plum you've just cut into. And if they smell the same, it means that we've actually given computers a new sense. The sense of smell is effectively the way that we turn the air around us into data. What does it smell like? Like the plum.
At this time of year, with the hour going back, evenings getting darker, and of course Halloween, it's a time when our thoughts turn to the supernatural. But is there any actual scientific evidence to back up the dusty old stories of ghosts and spirits, or is it all just a slightly odd myth that shows, like most haunted and fortune tellers and market stalls, used to make money out of? The people behind the IFL Science site have been busy investigating all things paranormal for the last month or so, and they tracked down a fascinating character called Dr. Christopher French, who specialises in animalistic psychology. He's a professor at Goldsmiths University at the University of London, and he's spent years investigating paranormal phenomena. He's written a book called The Science of Weird Shit, and he explains what exactly animalistic psychology is.
Most of the focus of the research that we did at the Animalistic Psychology Research Unit was coming from a kind of skeptical perspective, starting from a working hypothesis of let's just assume that paranormal forces don't exist. Can we explain the kind of weird experiences that people have that they report in psychological terms? And can we put our own explanations, wherever possible, to the test? See if we can produce evidence for them. Having said that, for me, an important part of being a skeptic is to always be open to the possibility that you might be wrong.
So why do people think they've seen a ghost?
Particularly when it comes to ghosts, I would say that the two most important psychological factors are context. So many people will have had the experience maybe of being shown around an old stately home, and if someone says, oh, and this bedroom is supposed to be haunted, it completely changes your mental set when you go in there. You hear creaks and noises that you wouldn't normally pay any attention to, any kind of draft, cold draft or anything like that. You notice, you probably wouldn't have even noticed that stuff if somebody hadn't primed you for it. And secondly, prior belief. Do you already believe in ghosts? Because if you do, again, you are more likely to have some kind of ghostly experience while you're walking around a reputedly haunted location.
The humble pig hasn't really had all that much attention from science over the years. Sure, we know that pigs' organs have potential for transfer to humans, and genetics have been busy trying to clone pigs to provide hearts, livers or kidneys for humans in need of transplants. There's also some fascinating new research from China which suggests that restoring brain function after a cardiac arrest may depend on the liver, after experiments with Tibetan pigs. But we don't know how the pigs actually feel about this, or at least we didn't until now. A team of scientists from the University of Copenhagen have been painstakingly recording audio of pigs doing different activities, eating, playing, rolling in the mud, and so on. Then using AI and machine learning, they set about decoding the squeals and oinks to see if they could gauge the pig's emotional states. Elodie Mandel is a behavioural biologist at the University of Copenhagen, and she's the co-lead on the research study. She says that the AI will be hugely significant in managing the pig's welfare, and that pigs who are raised outdoors with room to roam are significantly less stressed.
So we had this huge database of calls that are produced in specific emotions, specific contexts by many different pigs and kinds of pigs and ages. And then we developed AI, so artificial intelligence that could be trained to tell us if the calls that we recorded were emotionally positive or negative.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.
Cue the fireplace and your favourite fall movie. There's nothing better than a cozy evening at home with a glass of First Leaf wine. First Leaf is a personalized wine club that delivers right to your door. Sounds magical, right? They get to know your favorite tasting notes, which varietals you enjoy, and whether you prefer sweet or dry wines. So in every shipment, you get bottles tailored to your unique palate. Go to tryfirstleaf.com/fall to get your first 6 wines for just $44.95 with free shipping.